Kemajuan Islam Malaysia in 2015 and his bachelor's degree in Arabic language and literature from IIUM in 2018. He is currently pursuing his studies at the same academic institution for master's degree in Arabic linguistic studies, and now he is currently a lecturer for Quranic language department in IIUM Gambang. So now let us welcome Ustaz Muhammad Ikmal Hakimi bin Muhammad Helmi to deliver his talk.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Sister Nuri, Master of Ceremony for today's event. Before we start, let me share my screen first. Okay, I think everyone can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh once again. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wa mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. I would love to welcome everyone, although this is the last session of the day, which is the last session for the Ibadah 3.2 for the students of Center for Foundation Studies IIUM. So what we are going to have this evening is something that is very common, I think. I would say that it is very common for us, as we have been discussing much about this topic, which is the man as vicegerent. And I think most of us have already what do we call that? Have the idea of what is meant by man as vicegerent. But in today's discussion, it's going to be a two-way or a discussion between us, between me and all of the participants in this Ibadah camp. It is not going to be like I am the only one who will be talking or who will be speaking about this topic throughout the session. It's going to be an hour and 30-minute session, but I would love to have a discussion with all of you about this topic. Meaning that throughout this session, you may ask me and you may interrupt me throughout this session should you have anything to say or should you have anything to share with us or share with the participants. So before we begin, the topic is that man is as vicegerent. I think most of all of us or most of us already know what is meant by vicegerent, right? The other word of vicegerent is khalifa, but we use the word vicegerent today. And before we start or before we proceed with this thing, I would love to introduce myself first. So my name is Muhammad Ikmal Hakimi, and I'm a lecturer in the Department of Quranic Language in the Center for Foundation Studies in IUM Gambang campus. So what are we going to have throughout this 1 hour and 30-minute session? We'll start with the introduction first. So this is how this session will be. Will be throughout this session. So we'll start with the introduction first, and after that we'll see what is meant by, or we'll discuss about vicegerency in Islam. If we are talking about vicegerency or vicegerent, man as vicegerent, you'll see that there are many other religions are talking about this thing as well. I mean, they are also talking about what is meant by vicegerency. They are also talking about vicegerency in their own religion. But what we are going to focus on today is that we are going to discuss on what is meant by vicegerency in Islam and how vicegerent or man as vicegerent is being practiced in Islam. In Islam. Although we use the word man as vicegerent, it is not. It doesn't mean that it is only the men who are going to be the vicegerent of Islam. It includes the sisters as well. It is just that we use the word man, but it doesn't mean that women are not included in this discussion. So you don't take it wrong. And then after that, when we have been discussing about the vicegerency in Islam, we are going to talk about, or we are going to discuss a little bit about the application of this the concept of vicegerency in Islam in our daily life. Meaning that when we will be discussing first about the concept of vicegerency in Islam, and then after that we are going to talk about or discuss a little bit about how to practice this concept of vicegerency in Islam in our daily life, especially as a student in this, especially as a student, or maybe as a member of the society that we live in this world today. And then after that, we will proceed with the conclusion. So here are the things that we are going to do throughout this session. We will start with the introduction, and then after that, we will discuss on the concept of vicegerency in Islam. And then we will talk about, or we'll discuss a little bit about the application of this concept in this world, either as a student or maybe in the society that we live in together in this nowadays or in these days. And then we'll end this session with the conclusion of this topic. So let us start with this first. So when we are talking about man as vicegerent, the other word of vicegerent or the other word of vicegerent, or maybe the most common word that is used to reflect the vicegerency is the word khalifa. I think most of us have heard these words since the very beginning of I think secondary school, maybe primary school. It's too early to if we are going to discuss on this book. So when we are talking about vicegerent, when we are talking about khalifa, there is this one verse of Al Quran mentioned that we as the human being have been created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of the humankind, the creator of all creatures in this world, as the Khalifa in this world. So the verse number 30 from Surah Al-Baqarah, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وإذ قال ربك للملائكة إني جاعل في الأرض خليفة قالوا أتجعل فيها من يفسد فيها ويسفك الدماء ونحن نسبح بحمدك ونقدس لك قال إني أعلم ما لا تعلمون. The most important part of this verse, number 30 from Surah Al-Baqarah, is that the very first part of the verse, which is what وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. When Allah mentioned, O Muhammad, when O Muhammad, when your Lord said to the angels, indeed, I will make upon the earth a successive authority, which means the Khalifa. And who is this Khalifa? If we look into this sentence, just think that when your Lord said to the angels that I am about to place a vicegerent, the question that we think about is who are these, or who is this vicegerents, or who is this Khalifa on earth? And the Khalifa is the humankind or the human being, which means everybody or everyone in this world is the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is what we are going to discuss on today's session. Meaning that man as vicegerent or man as a Khalifa doesn't mean that you have to be a Khalifa, meaning that doesn't mean that you have to be the ruler, doesn't mean that you have to be the leader. It doesn't mean that you have to be the head of something or the head of the society. It means that everyone in this world, every one of us, each one of us is the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the leader of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We hold this responsibility. We have this responsibility to be the leader or to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world. So it means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has summoned us or has commanded us as the human being to serve and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He is the creator and the sustainer. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that in His hands we have, that His hands lies man's life and death. Meaning that we are created to be we are created to serve and obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as well as to hold the responsibility to spread the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the believers. Because of that, we have the another verse of Al-Quran which is وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَانَ لِيَعْبُدُونَ وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَانَ لِيَعْبُدُونَ. And we are not creating the human being and as well as the jinn except for to do ibadah, to perform ibadah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the same idea is presented in this question, in this verse, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned the word Khalifa or the vicegerent, which it doesn't mean that we have to be the ruler or the head or the top management of something or of the society. The word Khalifa or vicegerent is refers to one who exercises, basically it refers to one who exercises the authority delegated to him by his principal, or he has the capacity of doing things or of ruling things. But in this verse of Al-Quran, it means that we as the human being has been given the responsibility, or has been given the capacity to be the deputy or the agent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to spread everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to disseminate everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us and has that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's religion. Hence, whatever the authority he possesses is not inherently, or whatever authority that this Khalifa or this vicegerent or that we ourselves possess is not inherently our own authority, but it is derived from, or it is derived from what Allah has mentioned in Al-Quran, or maybe what has been mentioned by the Messenger of Allah, which is the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Meaning that even if we are the Khalifa, even if we are the vicegerent, we have this capacity or to delegate everything, but we are we are being limited, or we have this the limit of his principle, meaning that we have the limit of Allah's principle, which is Allah's religion, as well as whatever has been mentioned in Al-Quran and Hadith. So what we can conclude here is that even if we are being, we have been given the responsibility to be a vicegerent, meaning that we are going to spread everything that Allah has mentioned, we have the capacity of delegate everything that we have, but it is still, it doesn't mean that we can do everything. A vicegerent is not entitled to do what he pleases, but it is obligated to do or to carry out the will of his master, meaning that the will of his master here is that we have to we are not entitled to do whatever that we think we have to do, we want to do, but it have to be aligned with what Allah has mentioned in Al-Quran and what Allah has mentioned in his religion. From this point, we can conclude as well that the vicegerent we cannot think that we are the owner or the real owner of this world, but we are only the authority that has been delegated by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to do or to spread whatever he has, or whatever the believers must do, and whatever the believers must follow. So that is the very first thing that we have to understand in this session, in this topic, meaning that we are created as Khalifa, we are created as or we are holding the responsibility to spread everything that Allah's and we are created as the leader. We are holding this responsibility as a leader, but it doesn't mean that we can do anything. It doesn't mean that we can do everything. It is just that we are the leader, or we are the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We still have the limit, which is we have to still follow the rules of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the rules that has been mentioned in Al-Quran and Al-Hadith. That is the very first part of this session, which is to know that we are the Khalifa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala based on this verse of Al-Quran, which is verse number 30 from Surah Al-Baqarah. Next. I've mentioned earlier that we have been created as human beings. We have been created as, or we have been chosen to be the vicegerent of Allah apart from other creatures, as Allah has created many other creatures, such as Malaika, the angels, as well as the animals, as well as the world that we live in today, or we live in now. But why Allah has mentioned why Allah has chosen us, the human being, to be the vicegerent of Allah? That question we will discuss later on. But the most what we are going to discuss now is that what is meant by vicegerent, or what is vicegerent. Basically, when we are talking about Khalifa, the first thing that will come into our mind is that we have those Khalifa that we have been informed about, or we have been discussing about, which starts with the very first Khalifa, or the very first caliphate after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, or after the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the year of 632. So when we are talking about the Khalifa, yes, these caliphates or Khalifa, or we known as the caliphates here, is still we still call them as Khalifa, and that is the first, or the literal meaning of Khalifa actually. When we are talking about Khalifa, the previous Khalifa are those who lead the world, or who lead a country, or who lead a nation. But here, the meaning of the vicegerent is that we can conclude from the previous verse is a servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who will be the custodian or the steward of the world for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that he will be spreading everything that Allah has mentioned. He will be spreading, or he will be practicing everything that Allah has asked or has commanded us to do. And he will be following everything. He will not be doing everything that Allah has prohibited. So who are the Khalifa previously? We have many caliphates that starts after the death of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the year 632, which is we start with the Khulafa al-Rashidin, which is the Rashidun Caliphate, which starts from the year 632 until the year 661, which we have four Khalifa in this caliphate. We have first the Sayyid Abu Bakr, and then after that we followed by Umar and Sayyidina Uthman, and then the last one will be Khalifa Ali bin Abi Talib. And this is the very first caliphate that we have in this that we have. And then after the Khulafa al-Rashidun, after Rashidun Caliphate, in the year 661, the Umayyad Caliphate, or Khalifa Umayyah, which starts with the Muawiyah, and then followed by Yazid the first, Muawiyah the second, and the last one was Marwan the second, Marwan bin Muhammad. And then after the Umayyad Caliphate, followed by Abbasid Caliphate, and then followed by the Mamluk Abbasid dynasty. And after that, we have the last caliphate, which is the Ottoman Caliphate, Khalifa Uthmaniyah, which ends in the year 1924, in March 1924. So basically, from the very beginning of the caliphate, the Khalifa will be the leader of the nation, or the Khalifa will be the leader of the country. But but when the Ottoman Caliphate, they have abolished the caliphate, and then they come up with the idea of presidency of religious affairs as the new highest Islamic religious authority in the country. Though the name is different, but I think it still reflects the same thing, which is the Khalifa will be the leader of the leader who will take care of the religious affairs, as well as the religious affairs, and as well as the country affairs. So these are, I think the Khalifa that we have been introduced of from the very beginning, which we have the Khulafa al-Rashidun, and then the Caliphate of Abbasid Caliphate, Umayyad Caliphate, and the last one will be the what we call that, Ottoman Caliphate. So the question now is that we have been talking about the Khalifa. we have been talking about the vicegerent and the concept of vicegerency. The concept of vicegerency is that we we are the person, or we are the person who will be exercising the delegated power on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. On behalf, or we are the person who is the representative, we can call it as a representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a way that we will be spreading or disseminating everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala have been taught, it has taught us in Al-Quran, and as well as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam has taught it in the hadith. So the question now is that, why us as the human being? Why us, the creature, among the creatures of Allah, we have the malaikat, we have the animals, we have the other creatures in this world. Why Allah has chosen us, the humankind or the human being, to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Anybody can share his idea or her idea? Maybe? Why us? Anybody?
Can I try?
Yeah,
Sir?
Yumi.
Can I speak in Malay?
Yes, if everyone can understand Malay, then it's okay.
Okay. I think maybe it's because as Allah has stated that manusia adalah sebaik-baik ciptaan dan kita diberikan akal dan juga tanggungjawab.
Because we are the best creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and we have the akal, so that we are, because of the this specialty, which is we have the akal compared to the other creatures, and because of that we have been given this responsibility to rule, to be the vicegerent of Allah. Is that what you are going to say about, right?
Yes.
What about the others?
To be honest, I have the same opinion too. Since mankind has been granted by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala to have akal, unlike other beings such as animals and plants. So they have the capacity or options to decide what is right, what is wrong, and they have the chances and responsibilities to fulfill.
Yeah.
That's my opinion.
Yes, thank you, Sister Adiba. So why us? Why Allah has chosen us to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? We have this verse of Al-Quran. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم لقد خلقنا الإنسان في أحسن تقويم. We have created humankind or human being in the best form. Meaning that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that humankind is the best creatures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ever created. So that is why we have been chosen to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have discussed about the verse of verse number 30 from Surah Al-Baqarah, which that verse shows that we are the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth. And we have to bear in mind that though we are the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth based on that verse, we have to rest assured that we are not left uncontrolled, meaning that we are not left here in this world. We are not created to be in this world without purpose. We can see that from Surah Al-Qiyamah, verse number 36, when Allah mentioned أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم أيحسب الإنسان أن يترك سدى, meaning that, does man think that he will be left neglected? Does man think that he will be left uncontrolled without purpose in this world? Does man think that he will be left neglected without being punished or rewarded for the obligatory duties or for the obligations enjoined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on him. So that is why we are being created as the best creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as mentioned in the Quran. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Because of we, the humankind, is the best creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What makes us different from the other creatures? That we have the aql. We have the aql to decide what is wrong and what is not, what is correct, what we have to do, and what we should do and what we shouldn't do, what we must do and what we must not do, and what we can do and what we can't do. That is why we differ from the other creatures, and that is why Allah has chosen us to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we are being when we have been chosen to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to bear in mind that this responsibility is not only it is not only responsibilities, but we are responsible of these responsibilities. That is why Allah has mentioned in Surah, that is what Allah has mentioned in Surah Al-Qiyamah, verse number 36. When we think that we are created in this world uselessly, meaning that we might think that we have been created in this world just to live in this world without doing anything, or without having any purpose of life, without having anything to do, without having any responsibilities to be done, without having any what we call duties in this world. Allah has mentioned that no, you have to achieve the purpose of life. You are not created to be neglected or to be uncontrolled or to be left irresponsible about on your life. You are going to be punished. You are going to be rewarded for any obligation or obligatory duties enjoined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on us. That is what this verse is all about. The same theme, it means that Allah has created us in this world to have this responsibility to be part of the what we call that, the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has lead responsibility on us. So from this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to think about these things. Thus, thus man think that he has been left to himself to wander at will, as if his creator, which is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, had laid no responsibility on him, or maybe had imposed no duty on him, or maybe had forbidden nothing to him, that at no time in the future he will be required to account for his deeds. So this is what Allah wants us to think about. Does every one of us, or does each of us in this world has been created and has been sent to this world to only wander around aimlessly, grazing at will, without there being anybody to look after? So this is what we have to think about. Thus, we are here just to wander around and have no responsibility at all, have no duty imposed on us, had no forbidden thing, or had no forbidden thing in this world, in which when we die, or after we die, we have no we are not accountable on what we have done in this world. That is what we have to think about. So this verse from Surah Al-Qiyamah has the same theme, or has the same thing that has been expressed in Surah Al-Mu'minun, verse number 115, which is A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا وَأَنَّكُمْ إِلَيْنَا لَا تُرْجَعُونَ. Then did you think that we have created you uselessly, and that to us, which is to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will not be returned? Did you imagine that imagine that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created you without any purpose, that you will not be brought back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? From these two verses, we know that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with duties. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with responsibilities. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created us with things for us to do, with purpose of life in this world, for us to do, for us to achieve, so that when we are brought back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we can we are accountable on whatever we have done in this world. So because of that, because of we are the best creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have been chosen to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the word abatha in this verse, or in Arabic, it means that something for the sake of sport. But this verse means that أَفَحَسِبْتُمْ أَنَّمَا خَلَقْنَاكُمْ عَبَثًا. Did you think that we only created you to do something that is not something that is useless? Meaning that you are being created as human being to do everything that we can do in this world, not only for the sake of living in this world, but as well, but to for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well, for the sake of the life after the life after death, which is which is necessary as well as possible. So the question here is that why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us to be the Khalifa? We have the answer already. Which is we are the best creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us to be the vicegerent of the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah has mentioned as well that we are not left unattended, meaning that we are not left, or we are not being neglected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have these things that we have these responsibilities that we have to do, or to complete, or to be completed by us before we die. Because why? Because on the day of resurrection, which is the day of after the life after death, Allah will ask the disbelievers, did you think? Because the disbelievers, they think that they are being created, or they are created to be here in this world to do nothing, not to believe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to believe the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not to believe the messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and not to do anything in this world, that they have no responsibility to be done in this world, to be completed in this world. So when it comes to the day of resurrection, Allah will ask these believers, did you think that we had created you without any purpose, and that you will never be brought back to us? That is why we have to bear in mind that we are being created, or being assigned to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so that we have the responsibilities, that we have to be responsible on these responsibilities, so that when we are brought back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are required to account for these deeds. So at both of when we look into these responsibilities, we can see that these responsibilities is necessarily important for both in this world and the life in the hereafter. So that is why we have been chosen, and we have been taken accountable on these things. So the question now is that if we are created to be in this world with no responsibility, with no duty, with no with nothing to do or nothing to be completed, what is the difference between us who have been created to be the best creature, to have the aqal, to think what to do and what not to do? So what is the difference between us and the animal? So this question must be answered, and these questions will explain how and why we have been chosen to we have been chosen, or we have been delegated by this task, with this task. So when you think that you have nothing to do in this world, that you have been created aimlessly or uselessly to live in this world, do you really think that you are no more than mere animals? Because you are here in this world, and you think that you have nothing to do with this world, and you think that you have no responsibility to be completed or to be done in this world. So what is the difference between you and the animals? Animals are created to be in this world as well. They are created to live in this world as well, and they are created to have to have no responsibility. And then you think that you are created to have no responsibilities to be completed. So it means that you are now have no difference between there is no difference between you and the animals. So this verse of Al-Quran and this responsibility that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given to us has made us different to the animals or the other creatures. So don't you see the manifest difference between yourself and the animals now, right? So the animals has been created without the power of choice and authority, but you have been blessed with the power of choice and authority. How did you get the power of choice or authority? With the moment when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the aql, which you can think and you can do whatever you want whatever you want to do, but it must be aligned with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to do. So from here, there is no question of morality about what the animal does, but your acts or everything that you did in this world are necessarily characterized by good and evil. Meaning that everything you do in this world, yes, you may do everything, you can do everything that you think you might do or you should do, but you have to bear in mind that everything that you do is not something that it doesn't necessarily it is correct or it is good. So that is why we have been created with we have been given the aql so that we can choose which one we must do and which one we should not do, which one is the best, which one is good and which one is bad. That is why that what makes us different from the animals. So when we are talking about these things, when you have the authority and the power of choice, when you have the power of choice and the authority, that is why your acts are necessarily characterized by good and evil. Then how did you take it into your head that you had been created irresponsible or unanswerable as the animal has been? So that is why we are created to be the vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We are not created and we are not meant to be in this world to be responsible or answerable as what the animal has been sent in this world. So the moment we mention about the day of resurrection, it is quite understandable that when we think or we mention that animal will not be resurrected. But because why? Because the animal only fulfilled the fixed demands of its instinct, as well as it did not use any intellect to propound a philosophy, maybe, or it did not invent a religion, or it did not think anyone its god nor became a god for others. Meaning that it doesn't or it doesn't create any god from its kind to be the other gods except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, apart from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So because of that thing, we cannot call every act that has been done by the animals good or bad. But when it comes to human being, we have this what we call that, the power of choice and authority. We have the aqal to choose. So that is why we are required to be accountable on what we have been done or what we have committed during our life. So that is the first reason why we are being chosen, or why we have been chosen to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we are the best creature. لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. How can we say that we are the best creature? Because we have the aql that make us different between the other creatures, the animals, the plants, the world, everything that we have in this world. And with this specialty that we have, we are more than enough to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second reason, why do you think that we as a human being has been chosen to be the vicegerent of Allah, apart from we are the best creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Anybody? Yes. So apart from being the best of the best creatures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created, that is the first reason why we have been chosen to be the vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But apart from that, what is the other reason that you might think of to be the reason why we have been chosen to be the vicegerents of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of the other creatures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created in this world? Yes, anybody? How many of us in this Zoom? I think more than 100, right? Okay, apart from being the best creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we have to bear in mind that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created the very first human being, which is Prophet Adam alayhi salam, and his wife, which is Sayyidat Hawa alayhi salam. So the moment Allah has created Prophet Adam alayhi salam, Allah has taught him everything that a human being should know. That is why I have mentioned earlier that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala doesn't he didn't choose us to be the vicegerent and left us unattended. That is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has mentioned in Surah Al-Qiyamah that I have read earlier, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. Does man think that he will be neglected? Meaning that he will not be commanded. Does he think that does we think that we will not be commanded or prohibited on everything that anything that we can do or we can't do in this world? This means that we will not be left neglected in this worldly life without being commanded and prohibited. Though Allah has been given us a very kind of huge or big responsibility for us to do, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not leave us to do this thing or to complete these things without any references or anything. This means that he will also not leave us in grief unattended without being commanded on anything that we have to do. So that here comes when Prophet Adam alayhi salam has been taught about everything that a human being must know. It can be seen in the verse of Al-Quran, Surah Al-Baqarah, when Allah mentioned وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا. What does it mean? وعلم آدم الأسماء كلها ثم عرضهم على الملائكة فقال أنبئوني بأسماء هؤلاء إن كنتم صادقين. And Allah has taught Adam the names, Prophet Adam the names, all of them, then he showed them to the angels and said, "Inform me of the names of these if you are truthful." What does it mean by al-asma in this verse of Al-Quran? The moment we talk about a human being, or the moment we talk about a man, we have to bear in mind that Allah has created man to be the best creature that we have the aql. But when we are talking about something that is related with aql, it means that we have to have the knowledge of things. That is why in this verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught Prophet Adam alayhi salam with everything that a man should know. The nature of a man's knowledge is such that he or a man acquires information of different things through their names. That is why the word asma is being used in this verse. Al asma means names. It is the plural form of isim. Hence, it might be said that the sum total of man's knowledge can consist of the names of things, for example. So the moment Allah teach Prophet Adam alayhi salam, the names of all things, therefore it imparting the knowledge of those things in Prophet Adam alayhi salam, which is imparting the knowledge of those things in the human's knowledge or in man's knowledge. The moment we can learn or acquire knowledge, meaning that we are going to be responsible on everything that we have learned or that everything that we have acquired. So here are the reasons why we have been chosen to be part of the to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because we have been created to be the best creatures and we have been given the aql. And the moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us this responsibility, he will not leave us unattended. He will not leave us, we are not being neglected by him. But we are being given the references, we are being given the guidance on how to spread or on how to disseminate everything that we have to spread or we have to share with the others in this world. And how that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teach us on this everything, teach us these things, we can refer to the Al-Quran and we can refer to the messenger or what the messengers of Allah has taught us throughout these Al-Quran and Hadith. So these are the reasons. Moving on to the next part. So we have discussed on what is the vicegerent and how the vicegerency concept is. And we have also discussed on why we the human being are being chosen or has been chosen by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instead of or compared to the other creatures that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created. So now it comes to the implementation of this concept of vicegerency. So how can we implement this vicegerency, especially in this world or in today's life, or maybe in your life as a student or in your life as a member of the society? Anybody? Here we come to the practical part, right? So how can we apply these things? How can we apply this concept of vicegerency in this world, in our life, in our daily life? It is either your life as a student or maybe your life in the society. Anyone, please?
To abide by what God has asked for us to do, has demanded of us to do, and to avoid what He has forbidden. That would be the simplest form.
Yeah, we have been created to abide everything that He has commanded, and to leave everything that he has prohibited. But I want you to come up with an example of what we can do and what things that we can do to apply this concept of constituency in this world. I mean, like an example that you can do in your life.
So this is my opinion. So as a student, we are required to finish our works like assignments, tests, and so on. So we are at the same time we have to strive to gain success from it. So as a vice grade, we like our brother just said that we need to amal ma'ruf nahi munkar, and we have to apply that concept in our study so that we will achieve the best of result in our studies as a student.
So how can you apply that? I mean, how can you
Apply.
apply that thing in your study?
um, Apply the concept of rice cream.
Yes.
Um, I'm sorry, Ustaz, I have no idea.
Yeah, I know. 2 until 3:30 is not the best time for us to think about this thing, right?
Perhaps.
Yeah, because it is the time that we want to have something that is very, what we call that, interesting. It's just not interesting. It's something that is very light to think about. I think when we talk about vicegerent, yes, we are talking about to be the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to take the responsibility to spread the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when we are talking about these vicegerents, the concept of vicegerency, we have to bear in mind that before we what we call that, before we do something for others, before we ask others to do good things, we have to bear in mind that we have to have the control of ourselves first. So to apply this concept of vicegerency in our life, the very first person that you have to practice this thing is ourselves. So when we are talking about these concepts, when we are talking about these concepts as a student, I would say that it is quite hard for us to, what we call that, uh, to have this to have practiced these things in our life, as we sometimes we think we tend to do something that is, what we call it, how can I say this, for example, I will say this one, uh, as a student, you are seeking for knowledge. You are seeking for knowledge, right? So when you are seeking for knowledge, there are these etiquettes and there are these things that you have to follow, and there are things that you can't do in seeking for knowledge. But sometimes we forgot that we can do these things, and we can't do these things, but we do some things, or we did something that we can't really do. Macam mana tu? Pening kepala dah punya ayat tu. For example, we have these etiquettes in seeking for knowledge. We sometimes we have these kind of attitudes that we will not take a very good care on certain things in the process of seeking for knowledge. For example, you have this, I might say that sometimes when you have finished doing your final examination or something like that, you'll just leave everything that you think you might not use it later on, especially your notes. So the moment you leave your notes everywhere, anywhere, after the final examination or something like, or after the examination or after the test, it shows that you are not being a very responsible person on the knowledge that you have. You are not practicing what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has taught us to do. You are not practicing something that you have to practice. So from here, if you are being chosen to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but you yourself can practice this attitude you yourself can practice these attitudes, how can you, as the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, can ensure that you can ask other people, or that you can uh, disseminate everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to spread in this world? Or how can you reflect a good uh, what do you call that? A good value of the religion of Allah, when you yourself can do you can practice, or can ensure that you yourself will do or will practice this. Yes, anybody? So when we are talking about the vicegerent, when we are talking about the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we must bear in mind that we have to start with ourselves first. We have to try our best to be the best example of the religion. We have to bear in mind that we have to be the first person to ever practice what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala want us to do. We have to bear in mind that we have to be the very first person to leave everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited us to do. So this is how we can practice the concept of vicegerency in this world. We don't have to look into something that is very big. Yes, I might say that most of us, when we are talking about something, when we are talking about the vicegerency, when we are talking about being a vicegerent of Allah, when we are talking about being a role model, most of us will think of something that is very big, which is we have to do this thing in the society. We have to spread everything, or we have to spread things in a large scale. But most of us forget that. Most of us always forget that we have to start things, or we have to start something from the very beginning, from the very smallest thing, which is from ourselves. We have to start with ourselves first. The moment everyone in this world start with themselves, start to do something that is very good for themselves, start practicing everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has asked us, or has commanded us to do, and start living everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has prohibited us to do, it will indirectly create a very good society. How? The moment each and everyone practices everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do, meaning that in the society, all the members, or most members of the society will practice the good things by themselves. The moment everyone do the things, at the moment everyone practice the things, it will create a better society, which in the end of the day, it will be easier for you to do these things, or to spread things. So the point here is that you have to start with yourself. So how can we, as the student of this university, as the student of the International Islamic University of Malaysia, yes, we have this motto of this, we have this leading the way here. So the moment we want to lead the way, we have to practice, or we have to know that we have to be the one part of that is that we have to be the Khalifa, right? When we want to lead the way, when we want to lead the world, we have to be the Khalifa, and this concept of Khalifa must start within ourselves first. It must start within ourselves, and then when the moment we have or the moment these things has been part of our life, it will be easier for you to spread and to share these things with the others. Um, Next one will be uh when we are talking about this vicegerency, or maybe man as vicegerent, we can relate a little bit about on the things that the university want us to be, the thing that university want us to achieve, which is to have to become a sejahtera individual, right? The sejahtera one, meaning that you have these worldly life things as well as the after death life punya things. So that is what we are going to have today. The moment when we have to be the vicegerent of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, we will not be focusing on studying the religious matters and the religious affairs only. It doesn't mean that when you want to be the vicegerent of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, you have to study something that is related with religion. You have to only focus on the religious studies or everything that is related to the religions. It doesn't mean like it doesn't work like that. To become a vicegerent of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, you have to bear in mind that you can be someone that is very professional, meaning that you can study well in any course, in any programs, or in any courses that you have chosen. Meaning that the moment the moment you achieve or you strive for excellence, and the moment you achieve things that you want to be, the moment you achieve things or you achieve your ambitions, you can be the vicegerent of Allah in that field. You can be the vicegerent of Allah in your own field or your own causes, without neglecting the religious part, the religious affairs, the religious studies, or something like that. That is how we want you to be. That is what we want you to be in the future. We want you to have a balanced knowledge under the Islamic knowledge, the religious knowledge, as well as we want you to have the uh, professional things, the professional knowledge, and we want you to be a very knowledgeable person in which you can help, uh, in which you can be the very good vicegerent of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. So that is why I've mentioned earlier about the leading the way things, as well as this one, which is the sejahtera things. And then when we have been discussing about the vicegerency concept and how we can why us has been chosen to be the vicegerent, as well as uh, how can we be the vicegerent of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. And now it comes to our what is our rules in being the vicegerent of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. We have to look into this verse of our Quran. وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ. The moment Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala mentioned in Surah Ali Imran, verse number 104, أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم وَلْتَكُنْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ, and let there be arising from you a nation inviting to all that is good. وَيَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ, and joining what is right. وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنْكَرِ, and forbidding what is wrong. وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, and those will be the successful. Meaning that the purpose or the role of us in being the vicegerent of Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala is, the first one is يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ. inviting people to do something that is good. That is the first rule. يدعون إلى الخير. The second one will be يأمرون بالمعروف, and joining what is right, or asking people to do what is right. وينهون عن المنكر. That is the third thing. Forbidding what is wrong. So what we will get when we have completed all these rules, all these three things, which is وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْمُفْلِحُونَ, and those will be the successful person. So when Allah said, when Allah wants us to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you have the rule of inviting people, inviting inviting people around us to do good things, which is you are responsible to calls to righteousness, and joins all that is good and forbids evil, or forbids things that that as Allah has prohibited, or that evil manner that Allah has commanded. So the moment you have done all these three rules, you will be a successful person in this world. Why? Because you have done everything that you have done things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala likes. What are those things? You call everyone to the righteousness. You call everyone to be the righteous. You want everyone to enjoy everything that is good, and to leave everything that is bad for us. So the objective of this verse of Al-Quran, which is وَلْتَكُمْ مِنْكُمْ أُمَّةٌ يَدْعُونَ إِلَى الْخَيْرِ يَأْمُرُونَ بِالْمَعْرُوفِ وَيَنْهَوْنَ عَنِ الْمُنكَرِ, is that there should be a segment of this Muslim Ummah, which is you as the vicegerent of Allah, to fulfilling this task. What are the tasks? I've mentioned earlier that there are three tasks. Even though it is also an obligation on every member of this Muslim Ummah, but it is not necessarily the same things, meaning that you are going to complete all these tasks according to your ability, according to your capacity. Imam Muslim has recorded that Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu said that the Messenger of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, "Man ra'a minkum munkaran falyughayyirhu biyadihi, fa in lam yastati' fa bilisanihi, fa in lam yastati' fa biqalbihi, wa dhalika ad'afu al-iman." This hadith mentioned or reminds us about how each and every man in this world, each and every human in this world has this obligation, and every member of this ummah, or in this Muslim ummah, has to do or has to do this role according to his ability. Man ra'a minkum munkaran, whoever among you witnesses an evil, فَلْيُغَيِّرْهُ بِيَدِهِ. That is the first one. Let him change it with his hand. Meaning that you have the power to change the things. You have the power to change things into a good things. Meaning that you have, for example, you have the power to punish the one that have been doing bad things. If فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ, if he is unable, meaning that if he is unable to punish him, or if he is unable, or if he doesn't have this power to punish or to do things, then let him change it with his tongue. فَبِلِسَانِهِ فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِلِسَانِهِ. That is the second level. If he is unable, فَإِنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَبِقَلْبِهِ, then let him change it with his heart, which is, this is the third level, or this hadith shows how we have to do this responsibility according to our ability. Well, but it must start with the first one, which is, if we can change everything with our hand, which is with our power, then we have to do that with this. If it is not, then we have to change these things with our tongue. And if we are still unable to do that, then it is with our heart. But you have to bear in mind that if we do things or we've changed things in with our hearts, that is the weakest faith, which is وَذَلِكَ أَضْعَفُ الْإِيمَانِ. But at the very least, we try to change things. Don't let the bad thing to be practiced in our life or to be practiced by someone that we know. Um, so in this verse of Al-Quran, it shows the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to establish the invitation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the rules that we as the vicegerent of Allah must do and have to do, and these are the responsibilities that we are being given by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other rule that we have in this world is that to be the khairun nas, the best human in this world. So who are the best human in this world? Khairun nas anfa'uhum linnas. Meaning that the best human in this world is those who benefits others. So we have to live in this world to not be someone who is very selfish. Yes, sometimes we have to be very selfish. There is time that you have to be selfish, but it doesn't mean that you have to always be selfish. And it is not something that is very good for you to be very selfish throughout your life. So khairun nas anfa'uhum linnas, meaning that to be the best person, you have to benefit others. How can you benefit others? It ups to you, to your ability, and it ups to your expertise and everything. For example, the very close example that I can mention here, you may help your friends if you know something that your friends doesn't know. Being a beneficial person might help others, and helping others is one of the responsibility that we have in this world. So that is why I've mentioned here one of the rules of being the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to be the most beneficial person, the person who benefits the others the most. Khairun nas anfa'uhum linnas. And these are the things that you have to do and that you have to bear in mind the moment we are talking about being the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to conclude everything about today's topic, man is the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on earth based on the verse number 30 from Surah Al-Baqarah. وَإِذْ قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. The moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created us to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because we have to know that we are the best creature of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as mentioned in Surah in Al-Quran, لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. So the moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has chosen us to be the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it also reflects that we are not left uncontrolled without purpose in this world. We are not born, or we are not sent in this world to do nothing. We will not be left uncontrolled without purpose. That we are not being sent in this world to do something or to do nothing. That is based on Surah Al-Qiyamah, verse number 36, when Allah said, أَيَحْسَبُ الْإِنسَانُ أَن يُتْرَكَ سُدًى. Thus men think that he will be left neglected. Thus men think that he will be left uncontrolled without purpose. Thus men think that he will be left neglected without being punished or rewarded for the obligatory duties enjoined by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on him. So this is these three verses of Al-Quran shows us how we have been created as the Khalifa and why we have been chosen to be the Khalifa, and why as well as what is the purpose of our life, or what is the purpose of us being created by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world. That is the first thing. The second thing, you have to know that what is the vicegerent? According to this statement of this Al-Quran, the vicegerent is to improve the meaning of the word of vicegerent, or we are the representative of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and why Allah sent us to this world to improve the world for and on behalf of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to rule the people, to apply the orders and recommendations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala among the people, and as well as among the animals, or maybe the non-living things. So the wise power that created nature created all of the means in it abundantly, enough to meet the normal needs of all of the beings. So we have discussed on what is the three verses of Al Quran, why we have chosen and everything, as well as we have discussed on the purpose, or the purpose of vicegerent, of being a vicegerent, as well as we have discussed the roles of the vicegerent in this world, and how we can implement these things, or this concept in our daily life as a student, or maybe as in the society that we live in today. So these are the things that we have to know in this world, that we are not born for nothing, that we are not being created for nothing, that we are not being sent to this world for nothing. We have the purpose of life. We have the things that we have to do in this world. We have the duties that we have to complete before we die. We have the responsibilities that we have to take care of. We have the duties or the jobs as a human being, as a believer of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this world, so that it will benefit us in this life, in this world, as well as in the hereafter. The purpose of this life, the purpose of being the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is to live happily in this world as well as in the hereafter. We have been created as the best creature. We have been given the specialty to have the aql, to think and to differ what is to do and what is not to do, to differ what we should do and what we shouldn't do, to make sure that we do things that are aligned with what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to do. So because of these things, we have to be the best version of ourselves. We have to be the best version of Islam or Muslim, so that we can reflect the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a very best way, in a very good way, so that we can at least shows that the religion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the best religion that we have in this world, as well as to attract these believers to revert to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to revert, to believe back in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And at the end of the day, we have completed the rule. We have completed our rule as the vicegerent of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think we have come to 3:20. We have 10 minutes left, I think. So should you have any questions, you may ask. I'll just answer the questions. I'll try to answer the questions. But if you don't have any questions, I think that is all from me. I'll pass back this session to the master of ceremony, which is Sister. Siapa nama sister tadi? Nurin, is it?
Yes.
Yeah. I think that's all from me for today.
All right. So thank you, Ustaz Muhammad Iqbal Hakimi bin Muhammad Helmi, for the talk. So any one of you that have any questions can just write it in the chat box, or just open the mic. Just unmute the mic, any one of you. So I think Alhamdulillah, we have already reached at the end of our Ibadah camp for 3.2 semester 3, 2021 and 2022. Now I would like to invite everyone in this meeting to open their camera for some photography session. All right. Okay, one. Okay, ada orang tengah ready. Okay, jap. Hafiz, boleh tak tolong ambilkan? Boleh ke? Tak boleh.
Tak boleh.
Oh, tak boleh. Jap. Okay. One. Okay. All right. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Okay. All right. So on the behalf of Ibadah Camps committee, we would like to extend our sincerest gratitude to all the attendees here for being part of this auspicious program. And we would like also to apologize for any inconvenience caused. So just a reminder for all participants to fill in the attendance and also to fill in the evaluation form in the chat box and in the Telegram group. So that's all. With that, we will now end our program with Tasbih Kifarah and Surah Wal-As. Thank you so much, everyone, and Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.